What happens when there's something evil living in the woods behind your house? Something that doesn't belong there. Something that watches and waits. The couple in this story bought a house outside Toledo, Ohio. They thought they were getting peace and quiet, but this quiet wasn't normal. Some locals say there's an old church in the woods that was used by a cult in the 1940s, and whatever evil they worshipped is still there. Listen to this story, because what happened to this couple is far beyond terrifying. Welcome to Weird Encounters, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and become part of our ever-growing community of the curious. I'm writing because my wife keeps telling me to talk to someone. She says maybe getting this down in writing will help. I don't know if it's ghosts or animals or what, but we moved out here for peace and quiet, and lately I've started to think we made a mistake. My wife Rachel and I bought this place in August 2024, just outside Toledo, Ohio, about 10 minutes from Swanton and not far from Oak Openings Preserve. It's an older house, built sometime in the late 1940s according to the deed, sitting on 2 acres that back into thick woods. When we first saw it, the property looked perfect. There's an old fence line swallowed by vines and a narrow trail that disappears behind the back garden. The seller told us it led to an old family cemetery about half a mile in, but it hadn't been used since the 1950s. We both grew up in the city, so the quiet out here felt unreal. No traffic, no neighbors yelling. The first few nights, though, the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt heavy. It started with what sounded like footsteps on leaves behind the house. At first, I figured deer or raccoons. Then one night around 1 a.m., I woke up to what sounded like whispering. 2 or 3 voices, far away but clear enough that I knew it was human. I got up, went to the back door, turned on the porch light. The motion sensor kicked on, and the woods just stopped moving. The whispering cut off mid-word. Rachel said it was probably some kids partying, but I walked the tree line the next morning and didn't find any footprints or beer cans. Just quiet, except for one thing. Our dog Maggie, my yellow lab, refused to go near the woods anymore. She'd stand at the edge, tail between her legs, growling low under her breath. 2 weeks later, I started noticing movement out there during the day. Quick flashes of something pale between the trees. Too tall for a deer, too thin for a person. Every time I'd step closer, whatever it was seemed to melt back deeper until I couldn't see it. I tried to laugh it off. New environment, nerves, imagination. But even in full daylight, there were times the shadows looked wrong, like the sun didn't touch them right. I told myself I just wasn't used to all the trees. But the nights kept getting worse. Scratching on the siding. Heavy thumps near the back porch. Once, at 3 a.m., the motion light came on and stayed on for nearly 15 minutes. When I finally worked up the nerve to look, there was nothing there except muddy handprints on the outside of the glass door, 5 fingers, long and thin, smearing downward. Sorry for the quick interruption. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for being part of Weird Encounters. Lately, the channel hasn't been shown as much across this platform, so if you're enjoying this story, please take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support really helps new listeners discover these stories and keeps the channel going strong. Now, let's get back to this story. The trail behind our house starts narrow, almost hidden by ferns, then dips into a small ravine where the temperature drops noticeably. One Saturday in September, I decided to follow it. About 15 minutes in, I found what looked like an old logging road, half erased by moss. There were stone foundations scattered around, maybe from sheds or cabins that had collapsed decades ago. The forest felt different there, quieter, but not peaceful. After walking another 5 to 10 minutes, I saw it. A small old church, partially damaged, sitting crooked among the trees. The roof sagged, and the bell tower leaned at a bad angle. but it was still standing. There was no sign anyone had been there for years. The doors were chained shut, but one hinge had rusted off. When I pushed, the left door groaned open just enough to let me slip inside. The smell hit me first. Rot, wet wood, and something chemical, like burned plastic. Inside, pews were collapsed into piles. The altar still stood, covered in a gray sheet of dust. Behind it, someone had carved symbols into the wood, circles, lines intersecting, triangles within triangles. I didn't recognize any of it, but the deeper I looked, the more it felt intentional. Not vandalism, ritual. There were candle holders made from glass jars, blackened from soot. The walls were scrawled with words I couldn't fully read, Latin maybe, or something close. And in the far corner, a small trapdoor set into the floor. I tried it, but it wouldn't budge. Outside, about 50 yards behind the church, I found the graves. Most of the stones were broken or tilted, eaten by moss. But what stopped me cold were the names. Every single one had been scratched out, gouged away so deep you could see the chisel marks. Some had crude drawings, horned figures, wings, upside-down crosses. One stone had a drawing carved into it, a woman's face, smiling faintly. But someone had taken something sharp and carved X's over her eyes. There were at least 20 graves that I could count, no dates later than 1948. I took a few pictures with my phone, but when I checked them later, most came out black. Only one showed anything, the church steeple, and what looked like a dark shape standing near the doorway, though I hadn't seen anything there when I took it. That night, I told Rachel what I'd found. She went pale and said I shouldn't have gone in there. I laughed it off until she showed me something on her phone. Apparently, Northern Ohio had a history of cult activity going back nearly a century, especially one group called Our Lady of Endor Coven, located near Cleveland during the 1940s. They were rumored to worship a gray man or pale father, said to appear in woods or abandoned churches during rituals. Locals near Swanton and Delta had claimed similar sightings in the 1950s, though it was brushed off as superstition. Could the church in our woods have belonged to a splinter group? The timeline fit. The graves, the carvings, the names all scratched out. 2 nights later, around 11 p.m., we heard the noises again. Footsteps, closer this time, circling the house. Maggie barked and ran to the back door, but then she whimpered and backed away. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out onto the deck. The woods were dead still, except for one sound, a soft humming. It was human. A voice chanting something rhythmic, low and steady, from somewhere deep beyond the tree line. For half a second, I saw movement at the edge of the woods, something standing upright, too tall and narrow to be a person. It moved fast, almost a blur. Then it was gone. After that night, the dream started. Always the same. Me standing inside the church, looking up at the altar, the carvings glowing faint red, and a voice whispering my name from under the floor. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding. Rachel said she was having nightmares too, people standing at the foot of the bed, a woman humming from outside the window. Once, she woke screaming that something had touched her leg. There was a handprint on her ankle the next morning, like someone had grabbed her. Not bruised, but burned, an angry red mark that faded by afternoon. We stopped sleeping with the windows open after that. We started finding strange things around the property. Small piles of stones arranged in perfect circles behind the garage. Animal bones tied together with twine. A crucifix made of twigs, hanging from a branch near the back trail. I took one of the bone bundles and tossed it into the trash. The next morning, it was back on the porch step. That's when Rachel said we needed to call someone. I tried the county records office first, asked about our property's history. The clerk said the land had once belonged to a congregation, but he wasn't able to find the name. It closed in 1950 after unspecified incidents. The deed was then sold to a private owner who didn't live in the house. He later died in a house fire somewhere else. A couple families have lived here since, but not for long stretches. This house was definitely empty for some time before we ended up buying it. I spoke with a local sheriff's deputy, older guy named Connolly. When I mentioned the church, he went quiet for a moment and said, "You stay out of them woods after dark. There's nothing good out there." I asked what he meant, but he only said there were old stories about people disappearing, hikers, teenagers, a woman in the 1980s. He said, they never found anything solid, so it stayed rumor. Before he left, he looked at me hard and said, "If you see lights out there, don't follow them." 2 nights later, Rachel woke me around 2 a.m., shaking me. There was light coming through the blinds, orange flickering light, like from a fire. We ran to the back window, and there they were, 6 torches moving slowly through the woods, figures walking single file toward the direction of the church. We turned off all the lights and watched. After about 5 minutes, the torches stopped moving. One by one, they winked out. And then the humming started again. Louder this time, a deep, droning chant that seemed to come from every direction at once. Rachel covered her ears and whispered, "They're back." In the weeks that followed, we've heard footsteps almost every night, sometimes scraping on the walls, sometimes whispering right outside the bedroom window. And last night, Rachel swore she saw someone standing by the tree line, pale, thin, watching the house. I told her we'd leave for a few days, maybe stay at her sister's place in Bowling Green. But part of me knows it won't matter. Whatever's out there isn't just passing through. It's tied to this place. I had to go back to that church. I had to know what's under that trap door. I left just after sunrise. Rachel begged me not to go. She looked scared, like she already knew I wasn't coming back the same. The woods were quiet. No wind, no birds. It felt wrong, but I kept walking. When I got there, the church door was open. The chain was on the ground, like someone had cut it. Inside smelled worse than before, rot and wet dirt. The trap door was open, and a light was shining from below. The steps were damp and slick. I took a small flashlight and my phone. The air got warmer the farther I went. At the bottom was the same stone room. Someone had lit candles again. There were new markings on the wall, fresh, drawn in something dark. I heard something move behind the stones. At first it sounded like rats, but it was heavier. Then the wall shifted. Dust fell from the ceiling. A hand came through a gap between 2 stones. The skin was gray and shiny. Long fingers. I froze. Then a second hand pushed through and the stones started to fall out one by one. It pulled itself through the hole. It was tall, maybe 7 feet. Its skin looked raw. Patches were torn, like it had been cut open and stitched back together. Its hair was long, brown, hanging over its face. When it looked up, I saw its eyes, pale, almost white, but they changed. For a second, they looked red. Its mouth opened, and I saw rows of teeth. Not like fangs, just too many of them. It smelled like blood and dirt. I aimed the flashlight right at its face. It didn't blink. It just stared, breathing slow, making a wet sound each time it moved. Then it said something. I couldn't understand the words, but it sounded like my name mixed into it. I ran. I got up the stairs and slammed the trapdoor shut. It hit the floor hard. Something hit it back from underneath once, hard enough to lift it a few inches. Then everything went quiet. I ran out the front door and didn't stop until I hit the yard. When I got home, Rachel was on the porch. She looked relieved. I told her what I saw. She didn't say anything, just started crying. That night she wouldn't go near the back windows. The next few nights were worse. We started hearing people outside, not footsteps this time. Voices, men and women talking low like they were having a meeting. Sometimes they said our names. When I went out with the flashlight, the sound stopped. One night I caught something on my phone. a figure standing by the tree line. When I zoomed in, it looked gray. Its eyes were reflecting light, but not like an animal's. Flat and white. This is the really strange part. Rachel started sleepwalking. She never did that before. The one night I found her standing at the back door, she said a woman was calling her name from the woods. Then another morning I woke up and she wasn't in bed. I found her outside, standing in the yard barefoot. There were small cuts all over her feet, and she didn't remember going out there. Before we left, I wanted proof. I don't know why. I thought if I had something real, maybe someone would believe us. So the next morning I went back with my phone and a small camera. The church looked burned inside. The pews were blackened, but there was no smell of smoke. The trap door was still closed. I forced it open. The stairs were dark. The air was hot again. I heard water dripping and something else. Breathing. I turned on the camera light and pointed it down. The floor was covered in wet footprints. Then I saw movement at the bottom. Something gray sliding along the wall. It stood up and faced me. It was the same thing from before. Its skin was gray with dark lines running through it. Its chest was cut open and healed wrong. It was thin, but its shoulders were wide. Its mouth opened too far, almost to its ears. Its eyes changed from white to red and back again. There was blood on its hands and its chest was moving fast, like it was angry. It started walking toward the stairs. I backed up. It kept coming. I could hear its feet on the steps, slow and heavy. When it reached the top, it stopped and tilted its head. It said something. The voice was deep but rough, like it hadn't spoken in years. It said, "Stay." Then it smiled. I ran out the door. I could hear it following me through the woods, branches breaking. It didn't run, it just walked fast and steady. When I reached the clearing near our yard, I turned back once. It was there, standing at the edge of the trees, not moving, just watching. Its eyes looked red in the daylight. I went inside and locked every door. Rachel was sitting on the floor crying. She said she saw someone outside the window while I was gone. She said it was an old man dressed like a preacher with an upside-down cross on his forehead. She said he looked so creepy, almost like he wasn't real. That night around 2 a.m., there was knocking on the back door. 3 times. Then silence. Then scratching, long and slow. I looked through the window but didn't see anything. The motion light turned on. It was standing at the edge of the porch. The same gray skin, hair hanging down, mouth open, teeth showing. It didn't move. Just stood there breathing heavy. When I yelled, it backed away into the dark, still facing the house. Then I heard more footsteps in the woods. Several of them. Voices again, whispering. Rachel grabbed my arm and said she could hear her name, and we hid in the bedroom again until sunrise. The next day, we drove to her sister's house in Bowling Green. We stayed there 3 nights. Each night, around 3 a.m., Rachel woke up crying. She said she could hear humming outside the window. Her sister didn't hear it. When we went back home to pack more things, the house smelled like dirt. The front door was unlocked even though we'd locked it. Inside, the floors had muddy footprints. Same long toes, same size as before. In the kitchen, all the cabinet doors were open. On the table was a small pile of bones tied with string. We packed what we could. Rachel didn't speak. She looked pale, like she hadn't slept in days. As we were loading the car, she stopped and looked toward the woods. She said, "They're watching." Then she got in the car and didn't look back. We left that night. We are renting a new place now. I don't sleep much. Sometimes I wake up and think I hear the humming again. Rachel still dreams about the woman's voice. I don't think it's just an old cult. I think something was summoned there a long time ago and never left. Maybe the people I saw with the torches were trying to keep it contained, or maybe they still serve it. I don't know. But I know what I saw, and it saw me. Sometimes late at night, I still see a gray figure at the edge of the parking lot near our apartment. Tall, thin, standing still, and when I blink, it's gone. Rachel says we should talk to a priest. I don't know what good that would do. Whatever that thing is, I don't think it's something you can pray away. I don't know what to think. Was it the remnants of an old cult that never truly left, and some demon that was conjured? One thing's certain. Something evil lives in those woods behind my house, and I need help getting rid of it. And so, another strange encounter fades away. A trick of the mind, or something far more unsettling. That's for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching my stories. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support is what keeps this channel going.